I think you may be aware that we have been the last several weeks in the book of James. We actually, several weeks ago, started in chapter 1, and now we are at the end of the book of James. I don't know if you've noticed, so I want us to go back to the end of James, which is James chapter 5, 19 to 20. And I will invite you to read with me and we'll pray, and then we will try to reflect on this a little bit. From verse 19 to 20 of James chapter 5. This is the last chapter of James. This is the last thing James is saying. So if you want to put your own captions, in the conclusion of the matter is, we read from verse 19, "My brothers and sisters, if anyone among you wanders from the truth and is brought back by another, you should know that whoever brings back a sinner from wandering will save the sinner's soul from death and will cover multiple sins." Word of the Lord. So let's pray. Gracious God and Heavenly Father, we pray very simply that your word will be a lamp to our feet and a light to our path. In Jesus' name. Amen. So this is the end. This is the end. It's interesting if you remember some of the highlights. James chapter 1. He says, be doers and not just hearers. So he challenged those to whom he wrote and us. Don't just listen and don't just know the word as in head knowledge. So don't just have the information up here. You must now do it. That was James chapter 1. It is in James chapter 1 that he spoke of how church people would sit down in a church service and they will be convicted when they hear the message, and by the time they leave the service they forget. James chapter 2, he went on to say, if you have faith and you don't have works, it's useless. And so he says, faith without works is dead. So you could tell everybody how you believe in God. You could tell everybody how you are a God-fearing person. You could tell everybody how, you believe in the goodness of God and how God has blessed you and all the nice God stuff. But he says, if you're not living out that faith, meaning in your life you're not demonstrated that you truly believe in God, His goodness, His love, and all that stuff, you say you're wasting time. It's useless. Faith without works is? Yeah. Then chapter 3, he went on, after talking about tongues and so all of that, speaking of how people use the tongue for good and for ill, he goes on as well to speak about wisdom. And he distinguishes really what you may call earthly wisdom from God, divine wisdom. And that's a theme I have been pondering for the last few weeks because Brother Moore alluded to it. James is making us aware that effectively having an abundance of information is not wisdom. So you could have plenty of knowledge, but still be a fool because wisdom has to do with how we use the knowledge. But James is saying how we live. So if you know that stealing is wrong, but you still steal, you're obviously not wise. Are you with me? But you have the knowledge. Isn't it true that a lot of our young people today know that, in fact, if you check it, we have access to information unprecedented. A guy was saying the other day that they his family used to run a computer school. He said they had to shut down the computer school. Haven't you noticed? The older ones don't realize, where are computer schools and where call the thing them they used to have again? Internet cafes. And the man said, there's no need for that now, because he said it's like them children born computer literate. When you listen to the big fancy words our children now can use, and you listen to the nature of their articulation, man, we quickly say, boy, them children these days brightly. And yet, in an age and an era where we have so much more knowledge and information, globally we can't stop fight war, and locally, from country to country, to territory, crime is on the rise. Think about it. In our schools, our children are so much more intelligent. When we were going to school, you get 2-3 subjects, you get plenty. You know, not me, but before my time. Now you're hearing children getting 8, 12, 14, 16. You hear the amount of subjects they get. When you go into schools, you're hearing so many stories now about children molesting children and disrespect and all the kind of wickedness and foolishness going on in the school. They say, but wait. And I tell you this, I don't think we get this thing. The other day I was listening to one of the radio programs and they were saying, as if, again, everybody discussing the problem of crime, and they're talking about the importance, don't invest more money in policing and so forth. We need to invest more money in education. Because the argument is, the more educated we are, the less we will have a problem with crime. Come on, don't be so stupid, man. We are far more educated in this generation. Literacy levels, talk to me. We don't have a major problem with literacy level as compared to 20 and 40 years ago. So, how come we have more education? More academics. And more crime. More disrespect. More disorder. More chaos. I got a ride. The PH, a car. The car was at the mechanic servicing, and so I got this ride with this car. This young man. And as I got in the car, the first thing that struck me is that he's picking up people, he's walking, but his seat, the back of the seat is far back, so almost by the back seat. He ain't lying back all the way there, but his seat back there, and I'm thinking, but you're picking up people, how the seat's going all the way back this way. So anyway, he comes in, as soon as I get in the car is bad when I hear musically. I said, man, where with that? Say, well, nothing wrong with the music. Me say, boy, got bad one in there. Well, it ain't really bad. But me say, if it ain't bad, how come it got bad one? And they start to tell me how, well, you know, things not really bad, and you need the bad to go along with the good. And I'm listening to this young man, I said, but what story is this, buddy? And then we got to the corner just below where this massive car area where they had the road was messed up there and they're fixing the road. And so we are about 17 line in the traffic. And so the vehicles now are coming up, we're waiting. And he tell me, he said, so where you going to say now if we drive past everybody and go down so they know? He said, but if you go down there, you're going to block up the traffic. No, you can hear it down there, he not move. Me say, but don't you see things are coming up? So next thing you go down there and traffic block. No, well, when I go down there now, I go through and then I go make a path for everybody else to follow. So we waited thankfully and then we moved. When we moved, he still, because remember, intelligence. He said, but look, if you look back, you will see how far our traffic there. By the time we take the corner to the byway, I think you know, those who know Brother Welly, a van, a pickup, just about to come out and do the same thing he was going to. Fortunately, we reached fast enough that the pickup stopped and we had to pull. I say, you see the same thing there? So what if he did come out now for saying he went past everybody? Well, we would have to go back in. Are you hearing me here? And I guarantee you, he's not an illiterate child. And I'm almost certain he went to secondary school and very likely came out with subjects. So James was making a point that wisdom is how we apply, how we live, but not just how we live, but how we apply knowledge in a manner that honors God. So really, wisdom is being able to live as God wants us to live. So it's not having God information, but it's living God's way. So then he goes into chapter 4. And in chapter 4, he continues to challenge us and how we live. And he says, don't be friends with the world. In other words, don't live to basically please the world. And then he ends chapter 4. That's where he says, don't boast about tomorrow. Don't live thinking tomorrow belongs to you. Brother Anton, that's chapter 4. He talks about how life is a mist. And if now we ain't getting it, then Lord knows I don't know when we will. I am convinced that people are dying in more unpredictable, unexpected ways today than 40 years ago. And I tell you, I suspect part of the reason this is happening is not COVID, is that God realizes that we have become so much more numb and callous to our own mortality that it's another way of making us aware of the fragility of life. You realize the number of otherwise appearing to be healthy people who just going dead just so. Long ago, it seemed to me that by and large people died when they got old, and if they died young, it was rare and some kind of unusual tragedy. Now you're having story upon story upon story upon story, where one day the person seemed to be fairly healthy, and the next day they just dropped down dead. And should that remind us that we are mortal? That tomorrow, James says, is not promised to anybody, but we still ain't getting it. We live with an arrogance and a bravado about tomorrow, as if we are immortal. So in my conversation with the young man, I said to him, I said, boy, you remind me, because as we continue talking, I said, you remind me of a fellow from St. Vincent named Cripple. Because he's telling me how if he goes so, thing goes so. I said, I remember Cripple. Cripple, one day driving, overtook, I was in the vehicle, overtook another vehicle going around a corner. And if you know St. Vincent corner, his corner. So I said, well, Cripple, what craziness is this? How you gonna do that? Nah, he alright, he alright, man. Don't worry about that. Me say, the obvious question is, suppose something was coming. Cripple said, nah. If something was coming, he would have pulled so, this vehicle would have pulled so, he would have pulled back so, this vehicle would have pulled back so, and he would have go through so. I joking, you know. hospital fighting his life. He overtook a line of about 8 vehicles on a fairly short stretch, overtaking to when he reached the corner, a maxi coming round the corner full speed, and obviously the maxi didn't get the memo, and the other vehicle didn't get the memo. So the man didn't pull so, and the maxi didn't pull so he couldn't pull so and go through so. And so the maxi slammed into him, and the front, the dashboard of the car was on the maxi. And even then, Cripple Field, the reason he didn't die is because, and he tell me, he said, well, when he sees the van going knocky, he just shifts up to make sure the steering wheel not hit in the chest. So I'm talking to the young man, and I'm talking because we want to talk about the problem of crime. How you have a lot of these young boys, young men, young people getting involved in crime. And I'm talking about the fact of the vulnerability of crime and the possibility of death. And he said, no! That man know they go dead, the man ain't afraid of no. I said, that's not the problem. The problem is many of them still think they will escape death. So they know that people getting killed in crime. They know that they're getting shot and people coming up, but it would not happen to. Because remember them they think they're wise. As I often tell people, and I told you, man, I say, it's what I call the thief man principle, where you will never get caught until you get caught. You're always smarter than the last man. So the reason he gets catch is because he is smart. You're smarter than he, so you will get catch. So I tell people all the time the thief man principle. So the thief man who breaks into the people's house and eventually get caught, the next thief man saying, boy, he's stupid. You can't go to people's house 10 and 11 o'clock in the night, so people are still up them time. That's why they go can't catch me. Because when I go in like 1, 2 o'clock when I know they're sleeping. When he gets caught, the next thief man says, boy, he's stupid. That's why they can't catch me. Because you can't go thief by yourself, you can't go with somebody else. And that's why they can't. And then when he gets caught, next thief man says, boy, the man is stupid. They'll never catch me. Boy, you'll got making sure you get something to put people to sleep because you never know. And every other thief man thinking he will get away and never get caught. And I told him, I said, that's the reason why problems of crime and drugs continue, because we always think we know how to beat the system. We're smarter than the last one. So instead of learning the lessons, we got it. So even as James is telling us, you are mortal. Just as how you were dead yesterday, you were dead today. And the back of our minds, you know the truth? We really don't believe it. I remember when I was younger, much younger, I don't remember what prompted it. But I started to say, boy, I realized it's possible I could die young. And anytime I said that, there was a stupidness you're talking. And I realized that while we talk about the vulnerability and the fact that we are mortal, we actually don't really live with the conviction and the awareness that maybe we wouldn't make tomorrow. And I'm not suggesting we must be fatal, but I'm saying that James is challenging us to appreciate any one of us could be the next one. But we hear it. But it's not how we live. That's part of the reason so many of us continue to put off making a very serious commitment to Christ. We keep planning to fix our relationship with the Lord. We keep planning to get closer to God. We keep planning to make some changes. We keep planning to start from church more regularly. We keep planning to come to Bible study. We keep planning to stop talking the things we talk. We keep planning to stop lying. We keep planning to change the attitude. And we keep planning because deep inside, now what we're saying, we're saying the right things. But deep inside, I could be alright for tomorrow at least. And for this year. Because we really don't believe that we could be next. I'll give you a quick joke before I move to chapter 5. Some years ago, I used to watch wrestling, and Goldberg is this wrestler. And every time Goldberg finished defeating one man, he goes to the rope. Who's next? And I remember using that at a funeral. A man said to me, he said, Rev, you make me real uncomfortable, Rev, because, after when you're preaching me, you say, who's next? You're next? And you will watch me, Rev? But the truth is, any one of us could be gone soon. Soon before today done. That's what James is saying. And that's why when James gets into chapter 5, James makes the point. Don't you think trust in material things? Because just as our life is fleeting, he says riches ain't gonna make it solve your problem. Riches is not your solution. Because they're just as fleeting. And some of you know I've told you about that. Because one day you could be, and we were talking about that I think in Bible study, because of my own situation in my family. One day you could be a millionaire, and the next day you could be virtually a pauper. That's not hypothetical. And when we were discussing it in Bible study, I reminded persons, you could go back to the Madoffs and the Clicos and the other ones, their name and so forth. Stanford and all of them who teach people money and people come dry out in a moment. And we say, well, alright, we're smarter now because no, you say, well, alright, how? Them people they could put all their money in one bank account. And we're smarter now because again, we still feel we have confidence in our wealth. We know how to secure it. And I reminded persons in Bible study, remember a couple of months ago, when Microsoft was updating their software, and airports all over the place, shut down and other places, you had one set of confusion because systems ain't working. Anybody remember that? When I thought of that, I said, oh wait, if an update of Microsoft software could create such a confusion, that means to tell me people could create some kind of software, and when you go by your account in your bank, it ain't got nothing. And when you go by one bank and you say, well, we go by the next one, it ain't got nothing. You realize because of how technological we are, how vulnerable our monies are. So you think, yeah man, well, I'm making sure I save. Save? Yes. But James says, wealth is not something to rely on. So James moves down in chapter 5, encouraging us to pray for one another when people are sick, and then he ends it in this last couple of verses. This is the ending of this whole James book. And here's how he ends it again. He says, you should know that whoever brings back a sinner from wandering will save the sinner's soul from death. This for me is so fascinating because James is saying the end of the matter, the conclusion of all of it, I want you to understand the most important concern is saving people's soul from death. Are you getting that? Now let me tell you why that is big. Because when you read James, people even think of James as what they call practical Christianity. And you should understand. Don't just hear the word, but do it. Don't just have faith, but works. Don't just be wise, but live. So when you listen to that, you can say, boy, yeah, boy. is concerned about our practice of Christianity. And then James ends it by making sure you don't miss the point. James is not simply trying to tell us to be good human beings. Come on, can you get me? He wants to make sure your soul is saved from death. Are you getting me there? No, I want you to understand this. Because many of us could easily misunderstand James, and I've heard people misunderstand, thinking that James is telling us, make sure you do, make sure you work, make sure you live. No. Follow it. James said, don't just be a hearer, be a doer. Don't just have faith, have words. Don't claim wisdom, live wise. So James is not talking about us having works or doing or living by itself. James is wanting us to be hearers that do. Tell me, you get the difference there. Be a hearer, in other words, receive the word, know the word, and live the word. So he doesn't just want you to do word things, he wants you to have an appetite for and a receiving and a being guided by God's word, and that's where your doing comes from. He doesn't just want you to have works, good deeds. He wants you to have faith that manifests itself in works. He doesn't just want you to live good in this world. He wants you to have the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and from that you live. See, we could miss it because it's easy to identify the doing. It's hard to identify the being. So it's easy to hear, well, be doers of the word. So wherever I just feed the poor, I just give the sick, I just do that. It's easy to hear, faith without works, so you have to have works. Whereas I just say my prayers, I got me this, I do me that. It's easy to think when James is understood for his call to living the Christian faith, practical Christianity. It's easy to focus on the doing and miss the being. No meeting in the past couple of weeks, I've been saying to the leaders, that's one of the problems in our church. Because it's easier. We spend more time encouraging doers and not interested in who we are, the being. We're far more invested in people doing, and so we're quick to get people to do, and we really are not paying any attention to the being, because it's harder to deal with the being. You could see the doing readily, but the being requires a little more discerning, and the doing is easier. It's easier to contribute some money to the church project. It's easier to go and help somebody who is poor. It's easier to, and I often like to remind persons when we look at Matthew 25, how people very quickly are, but where doesn't the Bible say, I was hungry and you fed me, I was thirsty and I was naked, I was sick and you visited me? And it looks like, if you read it looks like what Jesus is saying he wants from us is to make sure we are doing. Visit the sick, feed the hungry, clothe the naked. In other words, look out for the vulnerable. In as much as you have done it to the least of these, you have done it to me. And I'm a good person. I do help people. I do visit the sick. I do clothe the naked. Every time I just buy clothes, not only for myself, but I know there are people who can't afford me, just buy for them too. Anytime I have a chance, I just cook and help get other people. The amount of things I do for people. And you know what we forget? Before Jesus talked about the doing, he said he was separating what? Sheep from goat. So it was about the being before the doing. So he doesn't just want you to feed the hungry, etc. He wants you to be his sheep that feed the hungry and clothe the naked. Are you with me? In other words, and he wants you to be sheep because sheep are the ones who are willing to be surrendered and submitted to the shepherd. So he wants you to be a true sheep of the shepherd, and out of that, because, come on, let's be honest, you have goats who feed the hungry and clothe the naked and visit the sick. You have people who are atheists, bad-minded and wicked, who are also kind and generous and loving. Have you met persons who, the one you know, the person you know, is a wonderful person? They're so kind and they go be anything. Look like they're getting shut off at the back. But the one you know, kind. Oh gosh, I never see anybody so wicked and bad. Nah, can't be the same person. Hello? Tell me, you ever met any story like that? Yes. Have you met some persons who, if they're for you, they're really for you. They could do anything for you for the whole lot. But if they're not for your sister Benji, it's like two different people you meet. Have you met people like that? So in other words, Jesus isn't just concerned about whether you feed the hungry and so. He's concerned that you first are sheep and not goat. Being before doing. James is challenging us to appreciate that he's not just trying to tell us to live good in this world. He wants us to ensure that our relationship with God is right, so that our soul will be saved from death, sin and death. It's one of the things I think find difficult to navigate, because it's so much easier to do than to be. It's easier for me to give you a little small change and cut you in my mind. Hello? Or you're worthless and lazy and but I still give you the change. And it's easy because the change I give no go hurt me. Are you with me? I could give, that's not a problem for me. It's much harder to give you the change and genuinely care about you, not just about you getting food, but about your soul salvation. It's a fascinating thing, because if you go back to James, let's go up a little bit and see something very confusing. I call it confusing for the sake of argument. From verse 14 and 15, James chapter 5, the same James 5. He says, 14, he says, are any among you sick? Okay, so we know we're dealing with sickness, right? They should call for the elders of the church and have them pray over them, anointing them with oil in the name of the Lord. That sounds very straightforward, but here he goes on. The prayer of faith will save the sick. That sounds okay. Yes, it's saved, but you mean healed. Okay, but then let's read on. And the Lord will raise them up. And anyone who has committed sins will be forgiven. What sins reaching they know? Then we go on to verse 16. Therefore confess your sins one to another and pray for one another, so that you may be healed. The power and sickness with the matter of sin and our salvation. And then when you hear that, you're thinking, oh, wait. James seems to be also saying, I don't just want you to be concerned about people's physical well-being. Anybody hear me? I want you to care about their spiritual, their soul. You see, when we do, James is saying, don't just do to make people's physical condition better. Do because what matters most is who we are before God. Are you with me here? He says the most important thing is not how good and kind and nice you are. It is about who you are in Christ, your being. And your being is your being. Because it is about who you are inside out and outside in. I also remember some years ago, I was on a volleyball, by a volleyball coach, and a fellow asked me, he said, so when you're not being a minister, when you're not preaching, what you just do, or something like that, he asked me. I know the question he intended to ask, or he was trying to ask, but I said to him, but you seem to think that preaching is what I do, and it's not who I am. You understand the difference? In other words, I don't put on preacher me when I come up here, so when I come down from here, so I take off preacher me. You know, like how some people put on Christianity and take it off. When you see me take off my Christianity and deal with your hate today. Are you with me? It's not something I can take off or put on. It's not something I could be today and not tomorrow, because it's who I am. And I tell you something. When my father took ill, and I asked for leave to try and settle things with him, it was an interesting time, because I wasn't in full-time work. I'll leave it as that for now. And then when he died, and I went home, you know, every time I go home, I say to Reverend Harry was the minister in the Kingston in Georgia Monk Circuit where I'm from, and I would say to him, I'm available. There are other colleagues, I say, if you want, I'm available to preach. You say, well, but you come home because of your father dead and you're still preaching. Honestly, I can't turn it off and turn it on. Whether I'm in the pulpit or not in the pulpit. It's who I am. And then there comes a point when I'm sick and I can't preach, I'll still be one who preached the gospel and must live as a testimony of what I preached. Because it's not something you take off and you put on. It is the core of my being. So wherever you see me and whatever you see me doing relates to my life given to God to proclaim His name. So when I'm at home, or I'm on the road, or I'm play volleyball, or play basketball, or just walking on the street, it's who I am. And you know the funny thing about it? It's also who you expect me to be. In other words, you don't expect me to be one moment a preacher and the next time not. So if you meet me when I'm on vacation and you pass me by a playway booth, come on, talk to me. Your first reaction is, am I with me? You don't say, oh, I'm on vacation. He went to buy a phone card, indeed. He went to buy a phone card. In other words, you don't expect that they're turning on and turning off, because you know God's call on our life and our living for God is not a seasonal thing, it's not a convenient thing, it's not Sunday morning when I wake up, I feel like I'm a Christian, I'm going to church. But next Sunday, man, I feel too Christian, especially last night. I had such fun day with that. Well, to be honest, I couldn't make it successful because last night it was. I remember the time I come in there and think, I really feel I should go to church today. Hello, everybody? And you know, and I say to people, a lot of times, we don't even realize how we expose ourselves. The other day I was talking about it because I remember the situation. And I think I was talking about it in a Bible study. I remember the situation. So, this person is, so let's say Brother Hole. Brother Hole is a congregational steward, very active and involved, you know, always at Bible study, always encouraging people, you know, sound like a good Christian man. Are you with me? So one day, I am listening to Brother Holder, Brother Moore, and Brother Daniel, three of them, and then this lady comes in, and she's talking with them, and then she says to Brother Holder, oh, you know I have the baby, I get my baby now. So Brother Holder said, oh, okay, great, congrats, is what? Is a girl. She said, Brother Holder said, oh, so you need the boy now to complete the thing. So when Brother Holder said, so Brother Daniel said, no, that not complete the thing. She have this, and I'm there standing up there. So I wasn't seeing him properly, but I realized he's saying to Brother Holder, is not getting the other baby that will complete the thing, is this is what will complete the thing. Are you with me? Hey, Brother Holder, the good Christian man, no more about that will come. Hello? Anybody hearing me? You see? And I was making the point that Bible study. Sometimes we don't even realize how we expose what is inside. That's why Jesus said, it's not what you eat is really going to tell what your story is, you know. It's what come out of you. And so when James is challenging us, James is saying here, I want you to understand the most important thing in all I'm saying here is that I don't just want you to be a good person, I want your soul to be saved from hell. Interesting enough, what he basically says here is that if we really want our souls to be saved from hell, it's a collective responsibility as well. He said we're supposed to help reach the one that will be lost. Look at it again, verse 18, 19, and 20. Look at how James makes his point here again. I don't want you to miss this. Let's go down again to hear how James is making this point. Because James is challenging us to ensure that we, not just I am saved from hell, but the next person is also saved from hell too. Are you with me? No, you're not with me. You with me? So here's how James 19 and 20. Let's from about 19 and 20. He says, my brothers and sisters, if any of you wanders from the truth and is brought back by another, is what? Brought back by Another, you should know that whoever brings back the sinner from wandering saves the soul from death and covers therefore multitude of sin. In other words, James is saying part of our responsibility for one another is to bring us back from hell, save us from hell, bring back the wanderer. In other words, James is saying you and me and you are supposed to be concerned, not just to make sure we are healed physically, not just to make sure we get food and we're not hungry. He says we are really supposed to be concerned about the other person's soul. And very often, we're good. We're good people. How good you are if you really don't seriously care about the next person's soul. If you're so good a person that you feel God will let you in heaven, but you don't seriously care about the next person's salvation, you might say you must go to church and so, but all you really mean is that you must be a good human being. How many of us are seriously invested in bringing back people, soul from death and sin? You see, it's easier, the truth of the whole, to give them something to eat. It's easier to buy them a box of food. It's easier to organize and get some clothes for them to wear. Not true. It's easier to give them nice advice and encourage them. You must go to school. And let me use the brother here as an example. You must go to school, as a young man. You must study a book and you must make sure you stay out of trouble. Hello? That part easy. And almost all of us just do that. But to what extent do we seriously invest in trying to save his, yours, mine, everybody else's soul from death? It's easy to be kind and generous and loving. It's easy to be God-fearing as a godly person or else. It's easy to be helpful and generous. It's easy to go to church and to say your prayers. And if you don't say your prayers, it's easier to make sure you open your Bible for it. It's easy to have Bible in your bedroom, Bible in your car. It's easy to get a little devotional thing for your WhatsApp every day that you just read. Oh yes, well, I just read me WhatsApp every morning. Well, I just get a little thing from my phone. That's easy. Especially them 2 line WhatsApp you just get. It not take you nothing for reading. But do we care enough about others to seek to save their soul from death? The family members you say you love, the people around you say you're so good friends are. You ever ask yourself what kind of good friend you could be when you never really seriously encourage them to live for Christ and help in that process by your living for Christ? You ever ask yourself what kind of friend you be? It's only when the person's dead at the funeral, trying to see how you could see if you could wish them into heaven. You ever notice the thing? That we're wicked, Let me be honest, I'm finishing here. But we never once we had them be friends for the last 50 years. And we never seriously talk to them about Jesus. Yeah, we must encourage them to go to church, and we and them used to go to church. But we never seriously talk to them about their soul being saved from death. But we the first one when we have the eulogy and tribute. Well, I could tell you, she was a real God-fearing woman, and she was such a kind woman. I sure she got her own place in heaven. Last week, when I went to see her, she was telling me, And you know, I was studying the thing, and I said, boy, she's one of the best people I ever know. So, God get another angel. And if you ask, if we ever once try to encourage them in their walk with God, never once. But with the first one, I said they go to heaven. Maybe that's to restore our conscience. Because what kind of friend are you if in all your friending years you have never taken an interest in what James calls saving the sinner's soul from death? I am fascinated by the conclusion of James. Because it reminds me, and it seems to suggest that James is saying, I don't just want you to be good human beings. I want you to be prepared for eternity. I want you to know Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. And sin separates us from God. Sin poisons, it affects, it hinders, it corrupts our relationship with God. And James is saying, I want you to understand that my desire for you, brothers and sisters, is that you are saved and you save the sinner's soul from hell. That's why I often say being good isn't good enough. Until we can say, my God, I know. If you be mine and will not put my faith. Lord, I have is lost in thine and all in you I am. Until we can say, all to Jesus I surrender, all to him I freely give. I will ever love and trust him in his presence daily live. Until we can say, have thine own way, Lord. Have thine own way. Thou art the potter, and I am the clay. Until we can say, take my life and let it be consecrated, Lord, to thee. Take my moments and my days, let them flow in ceaseless praise. Until we can say, my God, I am thine. What a comfort divine. What a blessing to know that my Jesus is mine. Until we can say, my all is on the altar of sacrifice laid. My heart the Spirit of God controls. And I have peace and sweet rest because I yield to God my body and my soul. Until we can say, oh, the bitter shame and sorrow. And end by saying, none of self, all of thee. Until we can say so, we would be good, but not good enough. Because good is never good enough to live eternally with God. It requires a surrendering, a submitting. Sometimes it feels elusive, but it requires us starting right here with what James says: when we hear the word and we see ourselves in the mirror, don't leave it behind, don't forget. Put it into practice. Subject yourself to what God's word requires. Starts right there. Saying, Jesus, I will trust you. Trust you with my soul. So whatever you want of me, whatever you require of me, I know, guilty, lost, and helpless, you are the one who can make me right. Until we can see. I know I'm not where I ought to be. I haven't truly surrendered my life to you. And there's no excuse. So I come. Until we can see, Jesus saves me now. Then we would not be that sinner brought back from wandering and whose soul is saved from death. Can you honestly now say that you are saved? That your soul is saved from death and hell? Can you honestly and sincerely say that you have surrendered your life to Jesus and you are a hearer that does the word? You trust God wholeheartedly, and so what He requires you do. You fear God and walk according to the wisdom of His word. If you can honestly answer, you have an opportunity today, thankfully. But that's why God's word is proclaimed. So that we can be saved from death and hell to a new life of righteousness and eternity in Christ. Oh, to Jesus I surrender.